go over our very simple agenda designed to really maximize our candidates' voices. So starting out, we're going to have an opening vision statement by each of our candidates. Their responses are to be no more than 90 seconds. They'll have a timer to keep them on track. And then I will call on them one at a time in a mixed order so that nobody gets too comfortable going first or going last. Second, we will get to the meat of the matter, and that is 4 carefully crafted questions, very relevant to this district. And to ask those questions are 4 equally outstanding community leaders that are here in person. I'll call again on the candidates one at a time, and they'll have 90 seconds each to respond to each of the questions. And then we'll wrap with a short 30-second closing statement by each of the candidates. And again, I'll call on them in a random order. As I said, each candidate will be able to see a timer. And we want to encourage all of our viewing audiences on Facebook and YouTube to put into the comment sections any questions or feedback that you have. And then we're going to get all of that to our candidates so that they can incorporate that into their platform and respond in the future. Now, let's introduce these outstanding candidates. And I'm not going to give a bio. Some of them I know, but I'm not going to comment on any of that. I'm going to introduce them by their name only and let their responses give you a further appreciation for who they are and what their platform is. We have Ricardo Avitia, Elizabeth Beck, Doyle Fine, Darian George, Jordan Mims, Fernando Peralta, Sabrina Renteria, and Jared Sloan. And as Mike said earlier, Eric Richardson, because of a death in the family, wasn't able to be with us tonight. So before we get to the questions, let's invite their vision. So I want to ask each of the candidates, 90 seconds or less, tell us about your vision. And we will begin with Jared Sloan.
Thank you, Esdras, and it's a pleasure to be here before you. My name is Jared Sloan, and I'm running for City Council District 9. You can find me online after this at jaredsloan.com. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, went to school in Indiana, worked in constituent services for the State House there before becoming a firefighter, and then later coming to Texas to help my folks realize their dream in small business. For me, what we need in Fort Worth is a new vision. It's a renewed vision that helps guide us into the future. Where are we going in this city for the next 10 or 20 years? And I think that we need to start by championing the urban core. Downtown Fort Worth, District 9, and the great neighborhoods of District 9 near South Side, Fairmount, Berkeley, Mistletoe, and Ryan Place, for example. We are Fort Worth's front porch. Working together above the national political fray, we can build a city where everyone is welcome and feels safe. We can repair our aging infrastructure, our pipes and our roads. We can invest in economic development to help flip our property tax problem. We can invest in our kids and their schools. And of course, we can create effective public transit. I'm a former firefighter, I'm a business owner, I'm a community leader here in Fort Worth. I'm also a dad and a husband. I'm the Neighborhood Association president for Alamo Heights. For me, it's really about setting goals and seeking solutions. That's why I'm running for City Council, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Next, Sabrina Renteria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Sabrina Renteria, and I am born and raised here in Tarrant County. So I like to say that I live here, play here, work here, and my kids' school here. So I own 3 businesses here. I do event production company, own a floral company, and we do marketing and branding. And so I'm right over here off of Lancaster. We live over in the South Hills area. My kids go to North High Mount in McLean. So we spend a lot of time moving throughout the district, and this is our home. So the reason I'm running is we have a lot of separation and I think a lack of communication. Everyone is growing and and we need someone to bring us all together. And so we're having a hard time over in our area. We have homelessness issues, and we have some roads, and I'm kind of representing the small business portion because a lot of my friends, COVID hit us pretty hard, and so we were shut down. Hospitality has been hurting, and so it's time that we bring everyone together. So I'm running for city council to help do that and to kind of bring everyone together. Communication is my goal, and this is my home, and I want to see it flourish and continue and build back up to what it was and continue. We have so many amazing places here, especially District 9. It's so diverse. We have many, many groups of people that need some help, and I think that having someone who takes that time to understand and listen and be a part of the community and be someone who lives here can really help bring us all together. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sabrina. Next, Fernando Peralta.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fernando Peralta, and I am happy to be here tonight. I'll start off by saying I'm a proud husband, a proud father, and also a member of the Texas Army National Guard, and also the president of Las Familias de Rosemont Neighborhood Association. If you don't know where Rosemont is, it's on the south side. It's the largest Hispanic neighborhood association on the south side, and also historically one of the most disenfranchised. You know, since I got to Fort Worth, I got to work immediately. That's who I am. I'm passionate about my community, and I'm willing to get down, boots on ground, to work side by side with all the members of my community. And that's what I've done in Rosemont. I brought our Latino community to the point where we are educated and we are advocating, because throughout so many years of Fort Worth, we've been silent because of the fear of if we speak up, we're gonna get displaced. So I am running for city council because I believe our city council member needs to keep continuing to work with our community, speak in the language that they speak, and also be able to do that with the diverse group, because our district is diverse. And so again, my name is Fernando Peralta. I'm running for city council because I want to do this with all our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Next, Jordan Mims.
Thank you so much for having me, and also thank you for Amphibian for hosting this. Just a few things. I do want to address the elephant in the room. James, Darren, George should withdraw from this race. My vision for the city council does not include an abuser. I digress. For myself, there's a few things that I'm running on. One, we are becoming the 12th largest city in the US. We need a public transit system that fits that. Affordable permanent housing, that's actually affordable within the city. Third, being a rise for the minimum wage within the city for workers that are with companies that are 100+ workers. Fort Worth is becoming more and more expensive to live in. Wages should follow that also. And then last but not least, comprehensive reproductive and mental care for our members in the city. We need to invest more in the people who are underserved within the community. I'm a server, I'm a bartender, I am just a local person. My house is just up the street. I am a concerned citizen of Fort Worth. I've been here my entire life. And I believe that the city has the resources and it has the want for a young, progressive, a community accountable activist on that city council seat, and that is why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, Darian George.
Thank you, Estris. My name is Darren George, and I'm running for city council because I have 20 years of experience volunteering on the local level, being president of a neighborhood association, sitting on city council boards, and actually working with municipalities across the United States where I've seen best practices. I'm running for city council because I have a passion and love for this city. My wife's actually the one that came and convinced me that I should run, because she said, your heart is always trying to improve Fort Worth, from improving people in the city to looking at police reform to donating my time over and over and over. And I think that people are tired of partisan politics. I think they're tired of attacks for people that want to serve this city. I think people are looking for a nonpartisan that has the experience, that's been involved in locally, and isn't looking for this to be the next step for a higher office. I love Fort Worth. I grew up in Fort Worth on the east side. I went to Morningside Elementary, Dunbar Middle, and Northside High School. I have the ability to listen to all different neighborhoods in our communities. And I've been involved, and you know, I'm doing this for my kids, my 4, 5, and 7-year-old, that I want to have a great Fort Worth for the future. That's why I'm running for Fort Worth, and that's why I think I deserve your vote.
Thank you, Darian. Next, Doyle Fine.
I guess ultimately the reason I'm running for city council is out of a deep sense of love and concern at a moment in history for our city and our country. Going through this pandemic and COVID-19, there are new variants. I have petitioned the city council over the last year and to raise the alarm and up our game. And I do believe most people that live in Fort Worth, the majority in District 9, are good and decent people who have consideration for their neighbors and for one another. And for the most part, they try to mask up, they try to avoid crowds and get themselves vaccinated. I just want to be a cheerleader for our city to get its act together and up its game, because I think the #1 priority of any city across America is the public health of their citizenry. And that should be above short-term profit for a few, like when they brought in the NPR after I asked them to do everything to mitigate. That's sort of what pushed me into getting off the sidelines, because for many years I've been a community organizer, activist part-time, independent small businessman. And I just think if you don't have a seat at the table, as Shirley Chisholm said, then bring a folding chair. So basically my campaign is my grassroots folding chair, and I want to help elevate the conversation among all the candidates so we can find common sense solutions to the challenges that our city faces.
Thank you, Doyle. Next, Elizabeth Beck.
My name is Elizabeth Beck, and I'm running to be your next councilwoman for District 9 to give back to the city that gave me everything. My childhood was incredibly chaotic, but because of the people here, the community here, and the opportunities that Fort Worth gave me, I was able to see my way out of poverty, graduate from Southwest High School, joined the United States Army Reserves, where I spent 8.5 years, and in 2005 had the honor to deploy to Taji, Iraq as a sergeant. I came home, started my family, finished my undergrad, and went straight into my master's in city and regional planning, all while working full-time at the Council of Governments, where I got to work on some amazing projects like our long-range transportation plan, environmental justice compliance, and compatible development around NASJRB. I then went to law school right here in District 9, and District 9 is where I raised my children. And I am running to ensure that Fort Worth is a place of prosperity and opportunity for the next generation. And that means good paying jobs, bringing back our commercial tax base. It's affordable and diverse housing options and great schools for our children. And that's why I believe I'm the best candidate to be your representative, your leader on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And next, Ricardo Avitia.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ricardo Avitia. Thank you, Amphibian Theaters, and thank you, Near Southside, for having us. I am a son of migrant parents. English is my second language, and I'm here to represent the disenfranchised residents of District 9, the working class people of District 9, and everybody who is unable to speak the English language. As previously stated here on this stage, District 9 is a very diverse district, and we need a leader who is relatable to the community which it serves. We need a leader who is able to communicate with a diverse group of people. As a Marine Corps veteran and being part of the most diverse organization in the world, I learned to lead from the front and work with a plethora of people from diverse ethnicities and backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds as well. I bring to the district confidence in standing up for those who are unable to speak for themselves. I have proven to stand up against the grain, even when frowned upon, and I will continue to do so for all the residents and constituents of District 9. I will stand up for the against forced rezoning and spot rezoning in our district in low socioeconomic neighborhoods, and I will fight to be the best city council representative District 9 has ever had.
Thank you, Ricardo. And now let's get to these questions. And again, each of our candidates will have 90 seconds to respond. I will name them in a mixed order, one at a time. Starting out, our questioners will be Lily Biggins, co-chair, Race and Culture Task Force, former CEO, T.H.R. Harris Methodist, and a 50-year career in the Near South Side's Medical District. Lily.
Good evening. God, you guys look great. All of you look great, and I love hearing what you have planned for us. I have a question about courage. It really involves courage, and it involves vision. Over the last couple of years, as a community, we've experienced several traumatic events that prompted business and business leader to clearly state policy, publicly, policy and position about racial justice, diversity, representation, opportunity, and inclusion. At these traumatic moments, the City Council did not issue a collaborative statement that unified our position as a community to and about our community. What are your thoughts on why that didn't happen? The mayor and several other council members individually posted on Facebook and other social media their position, but as a council, a holistic group of leaders who should be speaking on behalf of the community, they could not get together, or they did not get together, and so there was no collective, unified position statement issued on behalf of the city of Fort Worth. What are your thoughts about why that didn't occur, and how would you have handled this if you were a member of the City Council? Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. And again, each candidate, you'll have 90 seconds. Be mindful of the timer. Our first speaker will be Sabrina Renteria.
This is an excellent question, and it brings communication is what I've been talking about this entire time. It is so hard to get any information in the city of Fort Worth amongst everyone. And so even when the Snowmageddon happened, we couldn't figure out where our water was coming or where things were going. And so I would love for everyone to come together and have more of conversations and bring everyone and have sit downs. And I don't know why they didn't come together. I think that everyone was so focused on their particular areas. And I think that's the problem, is resources are getting missed, and we have free, social media is free. Like, it's very easy to get on Facebook, and that's where most people go to find their information, or online. And I think that we underutilize those resources immensely. And so bringing people to have conversations is the biggest problem that we have right now. And I think that the new council is going to be younger, and I mean, District 9's got some pretty amazing candidates, but it's going to be a younger group of people that are going to utilize that a little bit more and be able to bring more information. And I think that's our goal, is Fort Worth needs to come together. We are growing so rapidly, and if we don't continue, then we're going to have a real problem later.
Thank you, Sabrina. Next, Fernando Peralta.
Thank you. I think this question, when we have a city council that doesn't look like the communities that they represent, this is what happens. Race is an issue that needs to be talked about. And it's scary because even some of the candidates on this stage make comments that, are you sure that the Fort Worth way is ready for a person of color to be on city council? And saying, let me soften the path for you, or trying to intimidate someone like me running for city council. We need people who aren't afraid to speak up about this issue, because we are side by side. We are living these experiences. Yes, I'm part of the Texas Army National Guard, our Army's diverse, different groups of people with different backgrounds. And I brought that experience to the work that I have been doing in our community these past few years to unify our community. But we have to do that first by having real, authentic conversations about the issues that our communities are facing, because our communities are hurting. And we need to be real about this. And we need a city council that reflects the diversity of the city and of this district.
Thank you, Fernando. Next, Jordan Mims.
So, just my thoughts on it. It is not shocking that there was not a unified response to the atrocities that have happened. Tatiana Jefferson murdered or assassinated by a member of the Fort Worth Police Department. We need to have, how do I word this? Because it's just very hard to sum up 300 years of oppression in a short amount of time. But what I can say is that it is not shocking. There needs to be representation on the city council that actually care for the lives of Black people. One thing that I have noticed a lot about hearing these responses and going to these forums with some of these candidates, the word Black, Latinx, get used, flipped around diversity. I heard other one time. It is that tackling that issue of why Black is such a naughty word in Fort Worth, why speaking on Black Lives Mattering, why is that an intimidating thing? Why is it so hard for people to understand that the underserved community, you just can't ignore them? And there are things responsible for it. Gerrymandering is a huge one. The council, I think it was one person that advocated for an independent team to review the gerrymandering and to redraw the district lines. And there just needs to be a better tackling of what it means to be diverse in Fort Worth.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, Darian George.
I think there's a number of reasons. One, I think you have an extreme diverse viewpoints on council. And I think that a lot of times council doesn't reach out to each other and actually come together to have a unified voice in situations like this. I think that's part of the reason that actually bringing some younger, innovative people to council is that have actually lived in these different neighborhoods and can represent these neighborhoods matters. And I think also that the personal attacks that come from the far right and far left cause people not to want to step out from what their constituents, in their particular district. I think we need people to listen more. I think we need to stop the partisan personal attacks and the false accusations. I think people need to listen more so that council can then say, hey, you know what? This is right, and this is what we need to come together to do. And that's what I think we need on council. I think we need innovative people that can listen to everyone and not just the people that are screaming at the fringe. I think that way we can represent all of Fort Worth.
Thank you, Darian. Next, Doyle Fine.
I'd like to start by commending the Race and Culture Task Force for an outstanding job and dedication and diligence they put into it to offer wise recommendations to our city council. I see the two major areas that seem to have been ignored by our present city council is an independent citizen redistricting committee, which means that the voters help pick their elected officials. The elected officials don't pick their voters. And the second most important, I do not find this headline acceptable. The Race and Culture Task Force recommended there be an independent citizen review oversight of the police department. Other major cities in Texas have it. Why not Fort Worth? And it must have subpoena power if it's going to have any teeth. So that's, to me, is the only way you're going to build real trust in our city between our police department and all the communities in Fort Worth. And that'll be a mechanism where people think they have a say and an oversight and real reforms can happen. And I think there's a lot of other good areas we could go into, but I'll leave it at that for right now.
Thank you, Doyle. Next, Elizabeth Beck.
Let's start with the fact that Fort Worth is a majority minority community, and we do not offer the same opportunities or have those available to all members of our community. And that starts at the top. It starts with leadership. We did not have a unified statement because our city council lacked leadership. Leadership is the willingness to boldly step forward in front of those tough issues facing our city, like how are the people of color in Fort Worth, the opportunities that they have that they're given in this city. But it's also about the wisdom to stop and listen when it's appropriate. And unfortunately, we did not have leadership on council to come together and make a statement and ensure that every resident in this city felt heard and felt safe.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, Ricardo Avitia.
Yes. Lack of leadership and a disconnect is what happened. The leaders that we currently have proven time and time again to not necessarily care about the constituents and residents that they represent. The city is made up of majority working class people. In particular, Spanish-speaking people make up 35% of the city, which means in a city council of 9 people, there should be at least 3 Spanish-speaking representatives, but there isn't, there's only 1. So definitely a lack of representation, a lack of leadership, and a lack of the willingness to take initiative when things get tough. And as a candidate for the City Council District Number 9, I plan on taking those tough stances when it's not popular to do so. Someone has to be able to call out the inequities and injustices that we face in our city council, the taking of money from certain districts and taking them and put them in other neighborhoods that have squeaky wheels. We need to be equitable in the way that we project ourselves, and we need to be transparent in the manner in which we do business in Fort Worth. And I stand behind every single working class community in the city of Fort Worth, to include the familias of Rosemont, to ensure that the $3.1 million is accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Next, Jared Sloan.
Thank you, Esdras, and thank you for the question, Ms. Biggins. Just to return to the question, I think we have to remember that at that time we do have 2 Black and 1 Latino representative on City Council. Obviously, not speaking to the fact whether or not that's enough representation, but this happened in that time. And so for me, this boils down to leadership and accountability. And it's time for us to take advantage of the opportunity now when we're gaining 4 new City Council members on City Hall to re-engage the conversation from a place of how can we? What can we do together? Now is our opportunity to start re-engaging these questions, and not to look back, but to look forward and really to see what can we do together to address race and diversity here in the city of Fort Worth, so that our Black community and our Latino, Latinx community feels welcome here and included in the conversation. We've got a history here in Fort Worth of saying more than we do. And I think it's really time for us to stop talking about what we can't do and why. We really need to start asking questions of how can we get that done? What is it that we need to do to build a coalition on City Council? And that's our opportunity before us. And so for me, it's about listening, it's about responding, and it's about asking, what can we do? Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Our next question, Tina Howard, owner of Leaves Book and Tea Shop and a South Main Village resident. Tina.
Good evening. As you know, the near South Side area is a major economic center here in Fort Worth, as well as for our area. It's known for our major hospitals, as well as hundreds of locally owned small businesses like mine. I specifically chose to open my doors here in the near South Side because of the community and the diversity of our businesses as well as our residents. I'd like to understand how you feel that you will approach understanding the needs and the challenges of both our large anchor institutions as well as our small businesses, and also what your thoughts are on balancing this new development as we're on this huge upward trajectory of growth in our area with minimizing the displacement of our current small businesses and residents.
Thank you, Tina. And again, candidates, 90 seconds, beginning with Jordan Mims.
Sweet. Listening to the question, small businesses have to be central to our conversation whenever we're speaking about raising the minimum wage within the city for companies that have 100+ workers. I believe that there is an issue with displacement within the city. Things that we can do to tackle that: having community accountable activists on the city council that advocate for small businesses and for or those who have an understanding that how expensive it is to be out here. I don't claim to know everything that there is about businesses. What I do have is a listening ear and an approachable attitude, and I'm always ready to learn and work with people who are struggling. And that's part of who I am and what I have to offer. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, Darian George.
So I think as someone who started his own business at 26 and has had a successful business for the past 16, 17 years, I understand what it takes to have a small business. I understand what it takes to build a small business. So I think you have to look at, with all the revitalization that's happened in near South Side, there have been small businesses that have been pushed out. And I think we've got to look at some of those where, how do we lock in some of those rates for small businesses as revitalization continues to happen? We've got to make sure that small business is the thing that actually makes our community thrive, right? The big businesses come in and provide lots of jobs, but the small businesses are the ones that make near South Side what it is. And so I think we've got to make sure there's lots of examples that I've looked at across the United States where they have revitalized without gentrify, right? And so there are ways that you take and look at how do we lock in what the traditional rate of value increase was, so we can lock in some of those rent rates and make sure that we're providing not only on a city level but on a neighborhood level for those businesses, so those small businesses, right? The businesses that come in, for the most part, they're going to do really well. How do we make sure that we focus on the small businesses and what they need?
Thank you, Darian. Next, Doyle Fine.
With regard to the small businesses, shopping local is the best thing we can do to help our local economy. Most any fool knows that. But they've struggled. It's been a rough time. Small business in Fort Worth, like all across the country, has had through this pandemic. The service industry, performing arts, the wonderful musicians. We're blessed with much talent in this city. It's amazing sometimes, So fortunately, the Rescue Act passed by Congress and signed by President Biden is some help on the way that we could qualify for, but we have a thriving arts and culture and eateries, and they learned how to be smart and safe about doing business, on their own, and they succeed that way. And we're only stronger all together if we keep each other safe and secure. But I'm very hopeful for Fort Worth. I think the Fed chair said, our economy is looking on forecasting to be 6-7% perhaps in growth. In Fort Worth, I know it's changed. It used to be defense workers were the #1 employer. Today, it's the medical workers. That's the industry that's very promising and high-paying jobs and adds a lot to our community. And they've been the frontline warriors in this whole battle against COVID. So I see a lot of promise in Fort Worth. And I think if we're smart about how we move forward, that better days are ahead like we've never seen before.
Thank you, Doyle. Next, Elizabeth Beck.
I watched my grandmother own and operate a small business right on the corner of Magnolia and May for 32 years, Biff's Cafe. And I saw how hard she worked every morning getting up to be at the restaurant at 4:30. We must prioritize Fort Worth businesses. When you buy that $5 latte from Starbucks, Seattle gets a new park. And I want to make sure that those new parks are coming here to Fort Worth. And it's why we must prioritize our local small businesses. Because when a business starts here, they thrive here, they give back here. And in the same way we want to ensure that development doesn't displace our residents, we must protect our small businesses and give them the opportunity to thrive, whether that be through rent abatement or securing certain grant programs for the city to utilize to make sure that we have that diverse economic opportunity for our residents to capitalize on here in Fort Worth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, Ricardo Avitia.
Is representation matters, and we see it in South Fort Worth. There is no representation on the city level to support all the small businesses across the board. The District 9 has 2 neighborhood empowerment zones, which means that in these zones, small businesses could take advantage of tax abatements, 10-year tax abatements to invest in their property if they invest a certain amount of money in their property. So if we make it an intentional effort to communicate with every single resident and constituent small business owner in the District 9 to make them aware of all of the resources available to them, both on the residential side and the small business commercial side, then I think we can get very far. Again, we can't take advantage of resources and programs, funds that are available to us if we don't know about them. And that's why we need an intentional candidate, intentional city council representative who would make it their point to communicate to all the residents and constituents of District 9 to ensure that they are equitably represented. The near south side is within a TIF, which is a tax incremental zone, and that incremental zone won't be over until 2022. So they're gaining lots of tax revenue that they're able to use within their zone. We don't have the same for representation for the rest of District 9, and I will bring that to District 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Next, Jared Sloan.
I think what we have to start with is recognize that behind every business, every small business here in the near south side, there's a business owner. And as a city council person for Fort Worth, and as a small business owner and operator, it's first and foremost in my mind is to make sure that we're including in the conversation our small business owners. It's so important to remember that our constituents are the lifeblood of this great district of ours, and that includes the small business owners, people that are putting their lives and their life savings on the line. They're also employing more employees across the city than any of our large major employers that stand alone. So we have to make sure that we give our small business owners the tools and resources they need to stay strong, to stay vital. I can tell you that as a small business owner and operator who brought and led a small business through COVID, I can tell you that a lot of us are hurting. And it was not just hurting economically, it was hurting because we were abandoned and we were made to be part of the problem. And if you owned a small business at the time, you understand how hard it was to keep your family and your work family together. And I think that's so important that we remember who these folks are behind small businesses and that we give them the tools that they need that so many other candidates here have already mentioned. And that starts with making sure we bring resources of the city of Fort Worth together, low interest loans and grants, and groups like Sparkyard to bring small business resources to our small business owners to make sure that they're strong and healthy.
Thank you, Jared. Next, Sabrina Renteria.
So I am one of those small business owners in this area. My warehouse is around the corner from here. And I think without this community and all of us trying to work together to help each other out, we wouldn't have survived. And so it's important, I think, for some of those anchor institutions and some of the small businesses to create a better relationship so that they can work together and kind of bring each other business. And I think that's kind of what's happening, is everyone's realized how important it is for us to stick together and try to work through this, because it has been really hard for us. I mean, a lot of our people aren't coming back, and that's, they've transitioned into new jobs in different places. And so I think working really hard on the communication, which I say a lot, but it's so important, and I think it's lacking, and it's hard to figure out where you're going to be, and without loans and grants and bringing some of those things to us, we're not going to make it through. So I think building our community up, building this area up, and working to bring in we need more people too. We want small businesses to start, right? Because that's the whole point of this. And every day we find new things and new arts and new cultures and new artists, and bringing them over here and allowing them and giving them a space to work is most important for us. So I think that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. And next, Fernando Peralta.
I think, when we're talking about understanding the needs that our small businesses, large businesses, our artists, our musicians, we have to listen first. And that's how I've laid it out in my website. Day one is I am scheduling meetings throughout the year with all business owners, large or small, artists, different neighborhood associations, because this is how we understand the needs of our community, because it's so diverse. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that once I get into office, and I do that with everyone in our community. And we do that, and by doing that, we're able to keep a balance on how we help our community, because we are doing the things that are needed the most, if that be small business grants. And talking to our artists, like affordable housing is another way that we help support our small businesses so they can live in the district. And also having our communities part of the conversation is always a huge deal. This development is starting already here in the near south side, and it's spreading. And we have to make sure that our communities like Rosemont, like Oakhurst, like Alamo and Sunset Heights, all these communities, Linwood, all these communities are still part of the conversation so they don't get displaced. But you do that first by listening, and together with the community, then you take a step forward and you act to save our communities.
Thank you, Fernando. Our next question, Ramiro Milo Ramirez, owner of Salsa Limon and a visual artist. Ramiro.
Hello, everybody. We want to hear your thoughts on the creative culture of Fort Worth, how it should shape our future in this district. I call it art magic, all these energizing endeavors that have to do with creativity and culture, from restoring historic landmarks or cutting-edge architecture, murals popping up everywhere, musicians recording hit records. We are now designated a cultural district by the state, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on the importance of creative culture in the near south side and how you would play a role in our future direction as a council member.
Thank you, Milo. Starting out, Doyle Fine.
Basically, it's the artists and musicians that give us the inspiration and sort of speak to our souls. It's sort of there. I've seen a thing said that earth without art would be. So anyway, I'd like to say, you're right. There is a wealth of talent here in Fort Worth, and it should be encouraged and patronized at every turn because it's well worth it. And I do believe that in the development as we proceed, we need green spaces. We need pedestrian-friendly works of art, places where people feel a kinship and a home to. And it takes the artists to help get us there. Proper urban planning doesn't have to be overwhelming. And I'm afraid that the sprawl, probably in the north of the 820, like 200,000, there's 20,000 people moving to Fort Worth every year now. Everybody wants to come here. But that's why we have unaffordable housing, because the rent's too damn high, and affordability of home ownership is kind of out of reach for most people, especially on their wages. And I don't know. What was your question again? Oh, my time's running out?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
You don't have to read it again, but yeah, just glance. I think you did well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Doyle. Next, Elizabeth Beck.
A great city, a vibrant city, one that attracts the best and brightest talents across this nation, is one that has vibrant places, unique spaces. In city and regional planning, we call that placemaking. And what we have seen happen here in the near South Side has been enormous, tremendous, beautiful placemaking. And that can't happen without our creatives. The creative class is vital to our economy today and our economy of the future. So I think it's very important that we foster that sense of place and those amenities that we know our younger workforce is looking for, and that is in large part the arts and our cultural vibrancy and celebrating that diversity and what that looks like, whether it's your craftsman home or your state-of-the-art, architecture that you mentioned. That's what makes Fort Worth, and that's what makes District 9 so incredibly unique. So we need to continue to foster that and understand that important relationship between the arts and culture and how it drives our economy and attracts our workforce, and continue to foster that throughout the city.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, Ricardo Avitia.
Yes, the arts are a very important aspect of the near South Side. But we have to also understand that with the arts and architecture comes a divide, a wealth divide between the low socioeconomic class and the affluent. Because the affluent is who appreciates and is able to pay for the arts and be in museums and galas and such, to whereas the artist is down in the gutter, in the nitty gritty, trying to make ends meet. So there is that vast, diverse spectrum there. And with that being said, we have to be able to also protect the already cultural districts that we have within the city that were organically created. And how are we able to protect those particular parts and places of the city so that we can ensure that those areas are also vibrant. And I think the near South Side has the experience and the vision to help these unincorporated, less recognized areas of the city to be more vibrant and more recognized, so that we have different pockets in the city of economic development and vibrancy. So I think near South Side could take the lead on that without actually gentrifying or having imperialistic mindsets or capitalistic, ideas as well.
Thank you, Ricardo. Next, Jared Sloan.
So as the chairman of the Arts Council of Fort Worth, I have a pretty unique and passionate thought on this, and that's that art is magic. It is beautiful. It's what makes Fort Worth this amazing opportunity for the future. And I also see art in this city not just as a cure for the divisions between us, but as our competitive advantage. It's our opportunity to break out as a city in and of ourselves, as a strength, as a powerhouse. And that's that subtle sophistication that arts lends our city and makes us so special. And I think that you can see that here in the near South Side. And I mean, I just have an amazing gratitude and awe for folks like Mike and Megan, who managed to create and go through this process of creating the near South Side, the near South Side's culture district designation. That is such an impressive and important step. It lays bare the obvious lack of leadership and investment and care that our city has for the arts, because it's so localized and focused in the near South Side. This is an opportunity for all of District 9's neighborhoods and all of the city's neighborhoods to really take advantage of the fact that art brings people together. Art is accessible for everybody, and it's an opportunity for us to invest by fighting for and creating an opportunity for hot tax dollars to art. Right now Fort Worth only has about $1 of investment in the arts per capita. That's only about a quarter of what we see in Dallas, for example. And there's an opportunity for us to make art our champion message to bring major corporations to Fort Worth. So for me, I totally agree. Art is magic.
Thank you, Jared. Next, Sabrina Renteria.
All right, so you're speaking my language because it's my whole life. That's what we do. So championing those people and giving them the opportunities and the spaces that they need and allowing them to take art all over the city. So we have so many amazing murals here, but there's so many buildings over like on Meyer that could use some art. And so I think also my son, we're in school and we've been COVID, we've been home. And I think art is suffered the most for them. There's no creative outlet for them because it's just math, science, and they're beat down. And so I think art gives them the opportunity to be themselves, and I don't think that they're getting enough of it. So championing them and giving them the opportunities, grants, and showing them that art is so important, and it plays a huge role in our city. It gives us what we are, and Fort Worth is such a cool place. And everywhere you go, the art speaks to that area, and so it allows you to get to know those people without even ever actually meeting anyone. So you can drive through the areas and kind of understand how they feel and what they're going through by their art, and that's the best part about the city is that you can understand that way. So I think giving them the opportunities they need, the money they need, the grants, and being that council person who understands how important it is, and that lives, I mean, it can change your life. I mean, art can save you, and you didn't even know you needed it. So thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Next, Fernando Peralta.
I think, art is magic. And that magic, we need to make sure we make it accessible to everybody. The New York South Side has done an incredible job of making an ecosystem to make it where it's possible, like here at Amphibian, where you can express yourself, because that's what art is. It's magic. And it's not just, being a musician. Art can also look like the way you speak. The baile folclórico from the Gran Plaza. Our lowriders, that is art. Juan Velasquez did an amazing mural right there on the edge of Rosemont of Vanessa Guillén. And there's other artists out there like Choke. I was like, there are amazing artists, and they're diverse. But we have to make sure that our magic is accessible to everybody, because being part of Rosemont and us having an art project, this was something completely new to our neighborhood. I didn't grow up going to museums or art museums, but I appreciate it when I was able to have access to it. And so we need to make sure we're implementing artisan zones, districts across our city, putting more funding into our arts, whatever that looks like, because it's different to everybody. And we got to make sure we're doing that in a way that we are empowering the artists and musicians, the baile folclóricos, and the lowriders out there, because they're out there. And we need to do that together.
Thank you, Fernando. Next, Jordan Mims.
My thoughts on the creative culture here is being in close contact with some artists, even working with them. The main thing that we have come to the conclusion is that being an artist, being someone of this community, it's often difficult to continue to stay here. It is becoming more expensive. So, I just take it right back to increasing the wages within the city, giving our artists the financial ability to continue to pursue their art. So having someone on the city council who appreciates artists and who knows that, dumping so much money into criminal justice and then completely forgetting about the arts, we have to foster that creativity within the city, because there's so much potential here. There's so many brilliant artists. However, it's just very inaccessible and very difficult for them to stay in this area, in this city, So I would just say having someone on the city council who appreciates art and who is connected with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, Darian George.
Yeah, so, it's not just about the arts. Near Southside is about the architecture. It's about the arts. It's about the small businesses, the people. There's so much that goes into what Near Southside has done. One of the reasons I'm really proud to be endorsed by Team Better Block, which understands how walkability, your public spaces, your green spaces, your architecture, your culture all come together, which is why you guys got the cultural district designation. And I think that is a great opportunity. It shows what Near Southside has done. I think what we need to do is take that and be able to build on it, continue to grow that, and use it as a way for Fort Worth to bring in visitors, right? And then, part of the space making is combining the walkability with transit and people to get to that area. So no matter if they want to go to near South Side, whether they're a resident or someone coming in for the weekend, they can get to near South Side, they can spend the money. And then if they want to, they can go to the museum district or go to the stockyards. So that's a great way for us to build on what we've done here in the near South Side that will further all of Fort Worth. What near South Side done is great, and we need to take it and build upon that in other parts of Fort Worth.
Thank you, Darian. And now our final question. Joel Burns, former District 9 councilman. Joel.
Thank you, Esdras, and thank all of you. Y'all are running for a position that I really hold near and dear, and it requires some bravery to put your name out on the ballot, and I want to applaud you guys for doing that. I want to thank Amphibian Stage for being our host for the Near South Side, for organizing this, and for my dear friend Esdras for just being a rock star. Thanks, Esdras, for having us tonight. 28 years ago when I got married, my husband's older brother said to me, Joel, being married is both better and harder than anything you can see from where you're at today, but trust me, it is. Later this summer, one of you will get married to 90,000 people. And with that, there's gonna be some nights you got to sleep on the couch. There's gonna be some hard times ahead of you, but you also have an experience that will leave you dumbfounded how awesome it is at times. And I'm envious of you guys that you have this opportunity ahead of you, that one of you will. I actually had a harder question, and Mike told me I had to make it easier, but don't think it's a softball, so come up with your best good answers. This question is intended to get your thoughts about the current level of civic discourse and how it affects civic engagement. In the Near South Side, we take pride in honest, open conversations of important issues rooted in fact. And we are fortunate to have a fairly highly engaged citizenry, including both residents and business owners. But lately, all too often, we have witnessed elected officials at the state and national levels spread false, fabricated, or distorted information as if it was truth. This has fostered a polarization in American politics that I actually think most Fort Worthians don't want to see in their local government. And the environment causes many to walk away from the process entirely. Tell us about your personal thoughts on the current state of civil discourse and civic engagement, and how you specifically have been involved civically prior to running for city council. And without using the phrase build excitement, tell us specifically, like mechanically, how you will get District 9 citizens civically involved in a process that sometimes they don't want to get involved in, and more active in the conversation about Fort Worth's future. And thank you all again.
Thank you, Joel. Candidates, you have 90 seconds, beginning with Ricardo Avitia.
That's right. Representation matters, and we do see there's racial divide in Fort Worth, and we see it right here in District 9. We see it on Berry Street. The further west you go, the whiter it gets. The further east you go, the blacker it gets. Even on the west side, the street Berry changes to Bel Air. There are some very huge disparities in income, wealth, and education in Fort Worth. And when I decided to run for city council, I made it a personal objective to reach out to every single neighborhood association in District 9. Not everybody was having meetings, so unfortunately I was not able to communicate with everybody, but I will make it I will work tirelessly to ensure that every unincorporated neighborhood has a structure that will be sustainable for the future, so that they can adequately represent themselves without fear of being, turned away when they have issues or concerns that are vital to their living here in District 9. Unfortunately, we do not have the adequate representation that we need. I will work tirelessly for all the working class families of Fort Worth, including Pasco neighborhood, JMSL, Hemphill, Nuestra Vende, anybody else who's willing to put forth the working effort to make District 9 a better place.
Thank you, Ricardo. Next, Jared Sloan.
Well, thank you, Joel, for the question, and thank you also for your service. And it's honestly humbling to be running for this seat after your stewardship of the district, and also of Ann's, who appointed me to the Building Standards Commission. You know, as a former firefighter, what I honed in my skill set was to respond to problems and to go at them with solutions. When the bell rings, you don't ask who you're going to help. You just go and help, and you solve a problem. And that's the same attitude I'll bring to City Hall. And that attitude has been very helpful on the campaign trail knocking doors lately, where I hear time and time again, we're all sick of being told what to think. And for me, it's really time to change the narrative. Start asking better questions. Start asking people how they feel. I think it's also important to start giving people some space to be mad, to be opinionated before we respond. Just give them the space. And I think, Joel, to answer your question, that's how I've worked for the last 10 years, is to try to give people the space they need to feel like they've gotten a valued opinion, even if I don't agree with it, so that I can engage in that conversation and try to persuade that person to see how I see them. And that's what's really important from our city council people, as you would best understand, is we need to engage the community and lead by listening, by talking to people, and by trying to persuade them to follow us based on what we think is the best thing for our community. And that's what I plan to do as your next city councilman.
Thank you, Jared. Next, Sabrina Renteria.
So I think people are politically exhausted. It's been a really rough go, and I think everyone's really tired. And when I wanted to run for this, I started asking people, you know, what do you think about a city councilman? And they're like, what is that? And so I think half the people don't really understand what our job is and how important it is. And so I'm like, you mean your whole life? That's what we control. Everything you complain about, your trash, your water, you know, your taxes. And they're like, oh, you know. So I think the younger generation, I mean, a lot of my friends don't realize how important this position is. And so I think bringing a new perspective and explaining how important it is to be involved in your local communities, because I think it gets lost on a higher level. People think that's the most important, and it's not. It's what's happening here in your community, and you get lost on, you know, watching TV and all the things. And I think that we need to bring people here and educate them on understanding how important our position is and what we can do to help them. I mean, there's so many ways that a council person can bring help to you and help you find the resources. And I think the lack of being able to know where they are or find them is huge for us as well. So I think the discord comes with people not knowing, and education is important. So bringing everyone together and showing them what we can do for them, and seeing like real service and real change instead of people just talking about it. Because, you know, I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. That's what people pay me to do. And so bringing that to this is what allows us to make actual changes and to show people how important it is. And so I think that's what we need.
Thank you, Sabrina. Next, Fernando Peralta.
Talk about being civically engaged. You know, from working with our homeless community, doing outreach with Catholic Charities, to being involved with the Hispanic Women's Network, to being involved with Leadership ISD so we can focus on racial inequity within our public school system, being part of Steer Fort Worth, being part of that board of young professionals wanting to be civically engaged. Also helping start a neighborhood association in our largest Hispanic community on the South Side. When we talk about being civically engaged, I think we need to talk about just doing it. I think we need to make magic. This district, and Joel knows this very well, is a Latino opportunity district. Let's make magic and elect the first Latino city council member since this district was made the Latino opportunity district back in the 70s. It's been over 40 years. Let's make magic. That's how you get people engaged. You see diversity. You see young people getting involved. This is what I'm about. This is what I want to keep continuing to bring to City Council, because that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, is being civically engaged because I care about my community, all my communities, not just my Hispanic community. And I want to continue doing that with everybody here in District 9. So let's make magic, let's get engaged, and let's do it together.
Thank you, Fernando. Next, Jordan Mims.
So as someone who appreciates transparency, leading by example, that is how we foster a better civil engagement. We have seen in 2020 what happens when basic science is denied, when it is when lies are made and truths are fabricated. We're in the position that we're in now. What we need are people who don't have a problem being transparent and who don't have a problem, saying this this is how we've gotten into this situation. These are the things that we can do to change it. My current thoughts on civil discourse, it can be better. There's always room for improvement. But I do appreciate transparency. I do believe that you take them along for the ride. You don't make behind closed doors agreements. And then also social media. You know, you have a connection to the public from there, utilizing that. Transparency is key at every step of the way. So what we need to do is have community accountable leadership, because it's easy to have this be your side job. It is very easy to do that. However, who are you accountable to at the end of the day? And what we need is to have a city council member who is transparent and accountable to their community and who is invested in this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, Darian George.
Yeah, so I think people are tired of the partisanship. People are tired of the attacks. I think what people want is someone on council that can listen. I think people want someone who can provide sensible solutions. You know, having served Fort Worth for 20 years, from volunteering to coach elementary school kids in football, baseball, and soccer, to serving on the Reed Fort Worth Executive Council to help improve Fort Worth ISD, to being neighborhood president, to being on the chair of the Board of Adjustment Residential, to working in the city to help increase the diversity within our city ranks, to improve the talent. I think that's what people want. They want sensible solutions. They want people that are nonpartisan, and they're tired of the partisan attacks that have come to this race. And I think that what we need to do to get people more civically involved is actually get out in the community. I think we need to have, every single neighborhood needs to have their own neighborhood association. And if we don't have that, the city needs to help them do that. But beyond that, that's a small fraction of every neighborhood that's represented. We need people to be out in the neighborhood. That's why I've knocked on 1,500 doors, so I can hear what people need to say. I want to hear what people have to say. That's what we need, is people being in the community, let people be heard, and that's how we have better civil discourse. That's how we get people involved in the city.
Thank you, Darren. Next, Doyle Fine.
Hey, Joe, it's good to see you, brother. It's kind of synchronistic for me that you asked this question, because it just so happens on last Tuesday night, I addressed our city council about this very topic that you raised. Because I think the toxic politics of demonizing your opponent and thinking they're your enemy is what led to the failed treasonous assault on our nation's capital on January the 6th. And I think Fort Worth is much better than that. And so I told them at the council the other night, to all candidates, mayor's race and city council, you know, we are not each other's enemies. We are just people civically engaged with passion for community service. And with different competing ideas. And out of that, we should be able to find consensus to actually address and find solutions to the challenges our city faces. That is my hope. And I feel very optimistic, because never have I seen so many candidates run for mayor, city council. To me, that shows me the democratic process is alive and well in Fort Worth, Texas. And I hope to God that's going to translate into getting a kick in the ass to the voter, because too long it's only been like maybe at the best 9 out of 10 Fort Worth registered voters do not vote. So if we don't change that dynamic, but I feel optimistic, because we had a record turnout in November in the election, and we had a heroic job done by the poll workers to keep everybody safe with a record vote and secure voting system. And let me guarantee everybody, anybody that tells you our voting election systems aren't secure and the best they've ever been is lying to you. So don't go down that road, you know, and I urge all candidates, you know, show some dignity to each other and ourselves. And out of this bunch, I know there's some bright young people that can help lead our district and make you proud, Joel, of the district, not only you and Wendy Davis and Ann Zeta, all high-quality people.
Thank you,
So I have
Doyle.
faith in the voters in this district. So
Thank you, Doyle. And next, Elizabeth Beck.
So when I talk to voters, I tell them the one campaign promise that I will make them is that they will not always agree with every decision I make, every vote I take, or every policy I push. But they will know that I have come to that place from a educated, measured, informed decision that I truly believe is best for our community. So we start changing the discourse by electing servant leaders, by principled leaders who you can trust, that you know have your best interest at heart. And that is something that I have been working towards for years. I have worked tirelessly around this community, this state, and this nation to encourage civic engagement and to make that more accessible to people through supporting and block walking and volunteering for city council candidates, school board candidates, state house, gubernatorial, presidential candidates across this nation, and giving my free time to volunteer hundreds of hours to get women elected across this state through Annie's List, and my time spent doing voter protection work to ensure that every eligible voter has the capacity and the ability to engage in our democratic process, because that is what makes us unique, and that is what we must keep moving forward with this city.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now for our closing statements, our 30-second closing statements. I want to commend the candidates for being significantly timely and keeping us on track, and we don't want to drop the ball now. So, as in before, we're going to ask each candidate to respond with their closing statement in 30 seconds, and I'll call your name out. And we'll begin with Fernando Peralta.
Again, I'm super excited to be here. 30 seconds is really fast. So again, I just want to say that I feel like our district and our city is ready for something different, something young, something innovative, and somebody that is passionate about all our communities. I've been doing this work for the last several years, and I want to continue doing that with every single community across our district. So again, please come out and vote. Vote Fernando Peralta to be your next city council member for District 9.
Thank you, Fernando. Next, Jordan Mims.
Thank you so much for having us. Few things. I am not a legal, corporate, or political insider. I am accountable to my community. I will still have to serve and bartend while I'm still on that city council seat, because I believe that being connected to your community and being accountable to them is how it keeps you honest, it keeps you motivated, and it will keep you on track. I believe that this city has potential, and I think that it's time for a young progressive person on that seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next, Darren George.
As someone who has the most experience when it comes to the local level, the neighborhood level, and the city level, has worked with municipalities across the United States to see best practices, has lived all across Fort Worth and understands the different communities. That's why I'm running for office. That's why I'm running for city council, because I want to serve Fort Worth. I believe in Fort Worth. We have an amazing future ahead of us, and we need innovative solutions that someone can bring to council. And that's why I'm running, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Next, Doyle Fine.
Martin Luther King said the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. And I believe basically that's true here in Fort Worth as well. And I do like to second a lot of Jordan's ideas about the need for a livable wage, for affordable housing, for a first quality transit system. And I agree with Roberto and Fernando about how important it is to understand we are a majority city, 35% Hispanic, and we need a city that leadership reflects that. And so kudos to both of you for that. And so I think we got bright young people in this race that have great ideas, so you'll be okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Doyle. Next, Elizabeth Beck.
With a minimum of 4 new council people that the City of Fort Worth will elect on May 1st, we have an amazing opportunity to pivot and decide where we're going to go as a city for the next generation. And it's why you need to elect a leader with vision, and a leader that can take that vision and turn it into a plan, a leader that can take that plan and turn it into action. And I am that leader for District 9 in Fort Worth. You can learn more about me at elizabethforfortworth.com, and I sincerely ask for your vote on May 1st.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, Ricardo Avitia.
Change. I'm not a politician. I am a working class resident of District 9, lifelong resident. I live on the same street that I grew up on, and I've seen the city change since the 90s when I first became eligible to vote. We need working class representation on city council. We need to hold our taxation without representation is theft. And we need to find less waste in our current budget to ease the burden on our taxpayers. Vote Ricardo Avitia on April 19th, early voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Next, Jared Sloan.
We need a new vision in this city, a vision that carries us forward and helps us ask great questions. We need great leadership at City Hall that asks, what can we do for you? How can we help you? And what can we get done in this city? And as someone here with the unique experience of having put my life on the line, worked for constituent services and worked for constituents, I've created a business based on a vision. I've actually achieved a vision with a team that I call family. And I'm a leader in my community. I'm the right choice for City Council District 9 because I'm asking, what can I do for you? My name's Jared Sloan, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. And lastly, Sabrina Renteria.
So I'm not a politician. This is my home, and I'm doing this to take care of our small business owners and to be a voice for people who may not be heard. My family is here, and my goal is to be the problem solver that we need. There are so many issues that we have going on, and listening is so important, and working together and figuring out a way to do that together is my only goal. So I'm running for City Council because this is my home and I live here, and I want to protect it. I want us to grow, and I want the change to be positive, and I don't want it to affect people in a way that it leaves people out. So that's my goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. And as we close, great gratitude to our sponsors, Amphibian Stage and Red Productions. Great gratitude to our organizer, Near Southside Inc. Great gratitude to our dynamic questioners, Lily Biggins, Tina Howard, Ramiro Milo Ramirez, and Joel Burns. And last but not least, great gratitude to our phenomenal viewing audiences, live stream viewers on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget your feedback and comments and questions. It has been an exciting evening. I've moderated a long time, not tonight, but over the years. And I must say that I am impressed and I'm excited. And I don't live in District 9, but I know that good visionary leadership in District 9 is good for the city of Fort Worth where I live. And I'm excited for our future. Thank you so much for joining us. Great job, y'all. Thank you.